You asked about orthotic devices other than SAPOs. I mean, I think there are, we were talking about this a little earlier, there are multiple different orthotic devices, and each individual person needs to be seen on their own. By and large, if you have minimal weakness, you get away with a very simple device around your ankle, something like a SAPO for some people, or what we call a push-acque, a quite soft one. If you have severe weakness of ankle dorsiflexion, you often need something slightly harder going up the back of your calf. And the reason for that is, and what SAPOs don't do, is they don't stabilise the ankle. So they're very good for bringing it up, but they're not great for stabilising it. Now, some people love SAPOs, and they say, I don't care. It's what I'm going to wear. I don't mind if I'm a bit unstable. What I've generally found is if you have weakness of bringing the ankle up and then get weakness bringing the ankle down, you sometimes need a change. And sometimes the foot up ones help a little bit there. So I think it's dynamic in any one person, that it evolves what you need depending on what stage you are at the condition. There are hundreds of new devices the whole time. And the most important thing is for a person to see a physio or an orthoptist that knows about CMT and get to know them and trust them. There is a difficulty in this country about that. For some reason in the UK, and I've never quite worked out why, each hospital is not allowed to have its own orthoptist. They all buy it in from a firm. So we had someone for 17 years doing it, and then it got changed to a different firm suddenly. And that happens all over. There's contracts with companies, but the contracts or the hospital do it for a period, and clearly it's financial, then they change it. So it's not like you build up a relationship with a physiotherapist. So it does depend a little bit on who the orthoptist is, but there's some excellent orthotists around the country in CMT. And I'm sure Karen has a list somewhere of people who are very good, because often it's finding out who everyone likes in your area and who's very good. And I know the ones that I think are very good, but it varies. But it does change with time what people need.
SAPOs, I have done for the last 6 years or so. And I find, because my legs are quite strong, they're all right for me. But I know about 3 or 4 years ago, they asked at one of the AGMs who was using SAPOs, and I bet there'd be 8 or 9 people put their hands up that were using them. But then about 2 years later, when they did the same, there were only about 2 or 3. So it seems to find that with SAPOs, if you haven't got strong legs or ankles, I won't say they're no good for you, but they're okay for me, except my right ankle, which I did my ankle ligaments 10 years ago. And that is one I do get a lot of pain from, and which I think I've got a new pair made about a month ago. And I think because they're so tight, your feet swell up, and then you get to stage you're in so much pain, you have to take them off. And I'm going to get them stretched a bit more to help. But
I think you're right. I mean, SAPOs, when they came out, people were very excited about them because they look aesthetically very good, and you can wear them with lots of shoes. I think you're right that they're better when you're fairly stronger. I think when you get very weak with your ankles, they just don't give stability. A few of my patients find if they're very weak hands, they're difficult to get on and off. And in this country, it's not much of a problem, but if it is very hot, it's not been a problem for the last few summers, but if it is very hot, they can become a bit uncomfortable because they're like a second skin. So they don't suit everyone, but some people found them fantastic when they got them. So I think it is an individual thing. I think the good thing that's happened is that they are now funded through the NHS if people want them. Because there was a long period of time when people had to pay for them, and they're expensive, and they don't last
Mine
long.
have been funded through the NHS.
Good. That took a while, but it's actually now everyone that needs them can get them funded. And if they're not funded, they should be.
Yeah, because the last pair I'd made only about a couple of months ago, I think she had to fight to make sure she got them through the funding. Because I know before I used to wear only plastic AFOs, but with wearing those, because your foot was in one solid position, you couldn't wear shoes. So in the end, I had to go and have orthopaedic shoes made. And by the time you took the costing for a couple of pairs of shoes and the AFOs, it worked out financially dearer than going for the SAPOs. Because now, if I can get a wide-fitting foot that I can get the SAPO on, I can wear more normal shoes and look more normal in public.
Sure, I know, but people often don't do the calculations that seem really simple to us, don't they not? That's the problem. Yeah. I agree.
I can add a little bit to that. In Scotland, the health service up there won't pay for SAPOs. We've tried in various areas, but none of them pay. But from my own personal point of view, I wore them, and in fact Mary saw me in clinic with them a long time back. They made a terrific difference until my feet started swelling, which they currently do, to the point where I can't get the Cephos on. But of course, I missed them to begin with, but the corollary is that the slightly swollen tissues in the feet are actually acting like Cephos. If you see what I mean. So that the swelling is keeping the feet up to a certain extent. But you may have noticed me hobbling around still.